Hi, good morning. Hi, this is Abhishek. I am the co-founder of Strategy4GMAT and an ISB alumnus. I have with me Manan, my co-founder.
Hi, my name is Manan Puri. I'm the co-founder of Strategy4GMAT and an alum from the class of 2013. We'll just take a few moments to get started, let other people join. So just sit tight for another 2-3 minutes and we'll get started. Thank you for joining.
So as Manan said, we'll start in a couple of moments. What I would advise is to put in all your questions in the chat window, and we'll take them when we come to the Q&A. The agenda was already shared with you in the email, so I think all of you would have a sense of what the session would be all about. So we'll start with opening remarks, then we'll have common mistakes by the ISB applicants that we've seen over the years. Then we'll take the questions that we received over email, and then we'll have Q&A from the chat window. Finally, from 1 o'clock, we'll be calling each one of you personally, and we'll have one-to-one mentoring and profile evaluation session. So you can ask any questions that are specific to your profile in that session as well. So just give us, say, another minute or two, and we'll get going. Just so you can use the window. All right, so let's get started. I think we'll just give you some opening remarks to set the context. So what we wanted to do in this session is basically give you a very quick overview of what to expect in the ISB admissions process, and while doing so, also share our experience of the life at ISB. And I'm sure all of you would have many questions at this stage. That's what we had, when we were in your shoes. So just thought, we'll come out here and discuss any questions or queries that you might have, so that you can take well-informed decisions regarding your MBA admission cycle.
Right. So I guess a lot of you new users have joined, so we'll start off again with our introductions and then we can get started, right? So my name is Manan Puri and I'm the co-founder of Strategy4GMAT and an alum from class of 2013. This is Abhishek.
Hi guys, this is Abhishek Chavla, again an ISB alumnus and the co-founder of Strategy4GMAT.
So this session will be divided into broadly 3 parts. In the first one, we'll talk about 5 common mistakes that applicants usually make in their ISB application that lets them not get through. And in terms of the next part, it will be the questions that we've already received over email, and then we'll take up questions that we have in the chat window here. I see a lot of people have started already chatting. The third part will be more a one-on-one profile evaluation session. So Abhishek, I, and one of our consultants will reach out to you personally and have 15-minute sessions, the details of which you would have received yesterday. I think without further ado, let's get started. So, in terms of the mistakes that people make in the application process, what's your experience?
So I think over the years, what I have seen is that a lot of people focus very narrowly only on the professional experience. So they'll talk about work. They'll say, okay, I did this. I worked for a large bank, or I worked for a major software company, and my project involved this. I traveled on site, and so on. I think what's really important is to bring out the impact. It's very important to say that, okay, I was a software engineer. I was working for a large client, which was a major food and beverage company, and because of my project, we were able to save, say, $1 million for them for the coming years, or something of that sort. So when you quantify the impact that your work had, it really tells the admissions committee that this guy has worked on serious stuff, and you cannot really expect them to just look at your work experience and then take judgments based on that. You have to bring out the impact in your essays and the application.
Right, and one more thing mistake people make is use their industry specific jargon.
Right, so, correct.
It's good that you're from a technical background, but your application reviewer might not be. So the essence of your achievement will be diluted. So it's like saying that I implemented .NET or Java framework in a client's organization and wrote X lines of code, but for instance, us not being from a technical background might not be able to view the magnanimity of the achievement as such, right? So it is important to sort of dump down the experience to a level of common understanding. So rather than saying the stuff that I mentioned, you could say that implemented a large project at a large IT firm, thus saving X number of dollars, and the impact was such and such. So that it sort of is viewed at a common platform with people.
Correct. So I think another common mistake is shooting way above the word count. So asked to restrict yourself to say a 300 word or a 400 word essay. The admissions committee is really keen on understanding how good you are with being very crisp and concise about what you want to say, and that is why it's very, very important that you communicate very crisply. So even a 401 word would be an error and would be looked down upon by the admissions committee. So you have to stick to the word limit. So a lot of people make this mistake. They're like, okay, the word count or the word limit was 400. I went with 405. It does not work that way. People are very, very specific about it. If you cannot follow instructions, people do not expect you to come out and work and study in a global school and follow instructions of people coming in from the US or the UK who are very, very particular about such things.
Right. And one more thing people sort of tend to miss out is having a coherence in the whole application. So they view as essays as one element of it, which is distinct from the rest of the application. You should look at it as a story which should tie together. So whatever achievements you highlight in your essays, it should definitely have a mention of in the job achievements or your current job profile in the rest of the application, so that it gives a combined picture. Now, a lot of people, what they do is just to throw a lot of things at the adcom. They'll write 3 achievements in the essays, 3 different things in the rest of the application, which becomes too much to digest. So you focus on 2 or 3 important things with the correct impact, and how does that tie into the whole story of you getting into ISB and what you want to get out of ISB.
Correct. And I think another one would be misunderstanding your extracurricular. So a lot of people, what they do is they talk about school level achievements or mere participation in any cultural fest or anything of that sort. I think that does not really bring out a lot of wow factor that I would speak. You really have to impress the adcom all the alums, whom you'll meet in the interview. And it's important to talk about the impact or the achievement. So do not really talk about mere participation that, okay, I participated in a quiz or a debate, etc. Or don't talk about things which are much dated that, okay, I have 10 years of experience and 15 years ago, I was the head boy of my school. It does not really add that much of a value, right?
Yeah, I think recency effect is as Abhishek pointed out, should be there, and of course the impact of it. So I think focus on that. Even if your extracurriculars are not strong enough, focus on the rest of the application so that it brings out. So if you just, again, it's not about trying to tick the box in extracurricular and mention something. If ISB offers you like 3 lines where you can mention that, even if you have material for 2 lines, that's perfectly fine. But you should not just mention, yeah, played badminton at school or table tennis at school, for instance.
All right. So I think that's more or less about what we wanted to share in terms of the common mistakes, and just wanted to keep you guys aware when you start off with your applications. I see there are a lot of questions by Ashish. What we'll do quickly is, just before jumping on to the next section, we'll have a quick look at what his questions are and talk about the common theme, okay? And the personal questions, Ashish will take those in the one-on-one sessions that will start at 1 o'clock. And if you could just patiently wait for that to begin, I'm sure all your queries will be answered. So I think let's just quickly look at what he's saying. So he says that he's currently preparing to start the MBA application process next July, to have 3 years and will have 3 years of experience when he joins the program. The reason to go for an MBA is to accelerate career in finance, trying to understand if ISB would be suitable. So I think these are very personal questions. Ashish, we'll take those once we get to your particular slot. Okay. Lipakshi says, how should we highlight extracurriculars? So Lipakshi, as we mentioned, it's very important to talk about the impact. It's very important to talk about achievement. So talk about the fact that, okay, you were organizing a college festival which saw participation from so many other colleges, or you were doing some volunteering which had the impact of impacting lives of hundreds of people, or 50 people, 20 people, whatever the number is. It's very important to quantify the impact. So that, I think, is very important. Whether it is professional background or extracurriculars, you have to talk about what is the impact of the achievement that you had. Okay, Tarun asks about the deadline. So Tarun, the deadline for the first round of application would be October 15th, and the second round of application would be January the 15th.
And just to add, the follow-up question could be more around when to start. I think a good time to start will be sometime in June or July. I would prefer June. Again, there are a number of iterations that you would want to do in the application. You want to get it reviewed by different people. Of course, the first step again is choosing the consultant that you want to, if you want to go for it. So those steps take time. So it's important to start thinking about it maybe in the next 1 week when you hit June. So we also actually received a few questions over email. We would want to take that. In the meantime, please keep on sending your questions in the comment section. The first one we received was more with respect to the GMAT, is how important are the IR and AWS scores? Does ISB give a weightage to both these sections or just the GMAT score out of 800? So think of the whole application evaluation as an equation, where different parts have different component, different weightage. So essays, of course, have a higher weightage than IR and AWS scores. You have extracurricular as a component. You've got work experience as a component, awards and achievement as a component. So each of these components have different weightages. With respect to this specific question, yes, the whole score out of 800 is, of course, more important, but a slightly above average or average score in IR and AW also would suffice if you have a good score from the other end.
Correct.
The next question is more again about the specific profile of the individual. Will definitely reach out to you as part of our one-on-one. It pertains to the pharma sector. The next one is more on the placement. So the placement of report of 2016, which is last year, indicate that there are many pharma companies which hire from ISB. What are the profiles that they look at? So I think, Abhishek, you are more recent, so you could
sure. So I think If you talk about pharma companies, a lot of the major pharma companies like Dr. Reddy's, Cipla, Novartis, they visit the campus for recruitment. The kind of profiles that generally come on campus are either strategy profiles, so there'll be either leadership programs or corporate strategy roles or brand strategy roles, and there'll be a lot of other roles around sales, etc. as well. So typical MBA profiles that people seek out for. Other specific questions around the pharma sector, we speak to the individual when we have the one-on-one session, and that is in fact the whole idea of speaking one-on-one. The next question is about scholarship, and I know a lot of people would have questions around it. The question is, what kind of profiles get a full scholarship? I am aware of the various types, but would like to get some more info on the types of profiles that are selected for tuition waivers, and how are the need-based scholarships handed out to the candidates. So I think I'll share my experience. There were a few batchmates of mine who got full tuition waivers, and one case in point was a person named Yash. Now he was a very stellar profile, and he kind of checked all the boxes. So he was already a CFA. He had a master's in game theory from the UK. He did not have a typical corporate background, and I think that's very important when you talk about scholarships. What he was doing was basically having his own consulting, and he was also someone who was very keen on politics, and he was helping Hema Malini with her political campaign in the UP.
Which
And
went well, though.
yeah, and he also was taking lessons on management lessons from Mahabharata, and he used to have talks around it. So that was kind of profile that was very special. Okay, I also know another girl from my class who was very candid about her sexuality in the interview, and said that yes, I am a lesbian, and people really appreciated the fact that she was very candid and open about it, and she got 100% waiver. So I think such profiles really make the cut for the scholarship, because they are very non-conventional, and they bring to the table something which a lot of you, a lot of us will not. So I think that is the key. You need to come from a non-conventional background. I think that's important.
Yeah, so that's one part of the scholarship actually, but generally merit-based scholarships, just to add, you do not have to write an essay for them.
Right.
It is ISB will view your application and then accordingly decide on when and if your profile deserves a scholarship. So people who have stellar grades, stellar work experience, which might not be conventional as well, do get through that. Of course, what Abhishek mentioned about also is part of that diversity scholarship that people get. In terms of need-based scholarship, and there was one of the questions in our comments right now. You need to submit an essay, additional essay, highlighting the need of that scholarship for you. Also, you would need to submit an income proof from of your family, and the eligibility for the scholarship is that your family income should be less than 10 lakhs after you give up your job. So that's the more important part. So that is how you could work towards that, and of course we can help you out with that.
Sure.
Then last question is a pertinent one for a lot of people, and after that we'll look at a couple of questions that we have on the comment section.
Sure.
Is ISB has not released the placement report this year. Is it true that the placements were bad this year and hence the list has not been released? I won't say the placements have been bad. It's just a timing issue. They will come out with the report soon, but I'm sure a lot of people would have been through their contacts hearing that a lot of people have not been placed and the markets are bad, etc. Typically in any year you'll have 30 to 40 people who are not placed at the end, primarily because they were looking for very niche profiles that they could not get, or they were plain and simple acting a lot very choosy, right? So what happens is a lot of such people get jobs 2 to 3 months after they graduate, because they have all the time in the world to search for jobs. The course is over, and just to add, ISB takes care of you then as well. So if you need to fly out to a different destination from your home destination for interviews, ISB takes care of your accommodation, your travel expenses, etc. The ISB placement committee is always in touch with you throughout the whole process till the time you at least get placed. So,
correct. And I'll just add with an example. So there was this guy who was 1 year senior to me at ISB. He already had around 10 years of work experience in finance. And as we all know, finance is not really the core strength of ISB. It's more around consulting and product management roles. Now, that guy was very clear that he wanted a senior role in one of the, the equity brokerage houses. And he was, through his personal networks and professional networks, he was reaching out to people. And he eventually got placed in July. Okay, and while we graduate in April, so there was a good 2 to 3 month lag before he could procure that offer. But he was very, very specific about what he wanted post ISB, and I think that clarity also helps, because if you get into a job that you don't really want to do in the longer run, you would feel frustrated a few months down the line, and then you will be out in the market again, and then there'll be a lot of questions around why did you take up that job if you didn't like it, or why are you switching so soon, and so on. So I think it's really important to take the time off. You are anyway spending 1 year of your life for that MBA, so make the most of it. And it is not about whether I get placed on campus or not. It's about the career that I choose post ISB. So I think that is really an informed decision that you need to take.
Right. So let's quickly go back to our comment section. So now I have worked for 3 years. Again, we'll look at your profiles separately. But the last part of your question is it wise to drop the plan for ISB, considering that after prospects of Indian MBA will be less? I would still say that the Indian MBA, again, it all depends on the kind of school that you go to. The ISBs and the IIMs of the world are still really good, and they equip you with the skills and real world problem solving capabilities that that you can exploit in the market after your career. So the prospects are not less. Yes, there are more unconventional programs or profiles that come in that do not do an MBA to get through. It's all about your goals. So if you want to start up, yes, an MBA does help. But if you look at it as a decision with spending 30 lakhs on your MBA versus 30 lakhs in your venture, I would still go for the former, because it will give you returns in the longer run. Again, these B schools, especially ISB, have incubator facilities as well that will take care of your loans also. That will take fund your initial office space, etc., and mentoring as well with fellow alums and professors. So I would still say that the idea to go for an MBA is still a good one, provided you have the right reasons for it.
There's another question around any tips for improving the profile, online courses or something like that. So I think one-off courses here or there would not really impact your profile or your candidature all that much. I think what you can do at this point is definitely work with an NGO or get involved at the workplace in the CSR activities, or take up a new project which would be very different from what you have done in the past, or maybe take more initiative around what you do in the office. So I think that is still something that you can highlight in the application and is viewed very positively. If you take a new course in say July and you are applying in October, I think the admissions committee and the alums are smart enough to understand why you did that. So, and it should also be coherent with your longer term plan. So for example, if you want to do something in digital marketing and you have no background of it, or maybe AI or anything which is upcoming, yes, in that regard, that course would help, and it would make sense. But if you just want to do a course because you think your extracurriculars are lacking, or you want to have something more to strengthen your profile, it does not really add a lot of value, because understand that the alums have been there and done that. They've been in your shoes. They've asked all these questions much before you are thinking of them, and they know how it pans out, right? So I think it's very important to just stick to your plans, stick to your profile, enhance it organically in the way that you've already been doing, whether it's work, NGO stuff, any volunteering, etc., rather than venturing out for something new, which would have a very minuscule impact at this stage. So even if you're doing a course which is an online course, it does not really add a lot of value in my opinion, right?
The other question we have right now, somebody has not taken the Gmat yet, and what is the ideal time to take the Gmat and apply for the first round? Ideal time, yes, it could have been yesterday, but I think the ship has not yet sailed. So I think you could still start preparing for it, give it a very thorough shot in the next couple of months or so, and then start targeting your application for the round 1 submission deadline, which Abhishek mentioned is 15th of October. So you could still do that. Of course, it's always good to start early, but you haven't done that, then all is not lost. So 3 months or 2.5 months of constant preparation for GMAT and ISB application is doable. In fact, I also did the same. Took my GMAT in August, and then actually September, and then applied in October.
Right.
So we have a couple of more questions which we received over email, and then we'll come back to you. How does acad in real time run, considering most candidates have attended any classes years back? Is it like case discussion or real time problem solving? So it is, a lot of it is with respect to cases, and you need to do your pre-reads because case discussions actually happen in the class. You don't get time to read the case. So these are real world cases that have happened in the past, or they are ongoing right now. You could have an Uber case study as well, or you could have a Coke Pepsi case study as well when they started out. So it's a mix of everything depending upon the course. The second part, or the first part of the question, was that people have not attended classes before. Yes, initially for the first week or so, it is challenging because but your orientation week, etc., is so grueling that it sets you up already for the grueling studies ahead. And yes, a lot of people who have not been close to academics for 8-10 years slightly find it difficult initially. But if you like the course, if you like the way professors are teaching, then in no time you can get back on track and compete with the likes of somebody who just got out of college 3 years ago.
So I'll just give you an example, my personal experience from my class. So there was a classmate of mine who had 8 years of work experience. He had worked in India, in Dubai, in Brazil, etc. He had went to an IIT for his undergraduate studies, and after 8 years he came to ISB. Now that guy, and he was a father of a 2-month-old baby when he started off the course, and his family was also on campus. But he was so good, whether it was acads or sports or extracurriculars, he would have read all the pre-reads. So pre-reads are basically material that you have to read before the class at ISB. If you do not read them, you will not get head and tail of what the professor is talking about, because they would expect that you've already read the case and then you've come to class. So this guy, even after 8 years of work ex, he was always on top of things, and very good with the grades and the analysis that he would do of real life case studies, and also a good basketball player, a good theater person. So I think it totally depends on you, and if you believe that you're feeling a little rusty because you've worked for say 5-7 years now and you're now going back to academics, I think the O week, the orientation week, which is your first week at ISB, just sets the tone. So in my O week, I was waking up at 7 o'clock and going to bed around 4 a.m. And again, that cycle would repeat. So you have 20-21 hour long days at ISB right from the beginning. And it's only then that you understand that it's really tougher than the job as well. So my family used to call me while I was on campus, and I would not have a chance to speak with them for days. And they'd be like, beta, you were better doing a job because you were having time for us than at ISB. So I think that's the rigor of a 1-year MBA, and it really shapes you well for the coming future. So I think that would answer that question.
Yeah, and just an anecdote, and we can delve into the next question that we have here. How does a general day at ISB look like? But just before you take that up, it is more about in your job you used to look forward to weekends. Now you look forward to more weekdays because your classes are there and there is a more structured schedule towards your day. So weekends are a lot more grueling than weekdays.
Right.
So what does a day look like?
So a typical day, if I were to talk about my experience, so if we have a class at 8 o'clock and then followed up another at 10, so there are 4 hours of classes, say from 8 to 12. Then you'll have your lunch or snack, whatever, and then you'll either do some self-study or you'll have some group study. So all of you will get together and get on to solve a case or have some simulation exercises, etc. That will take say 2 to 3 hours or maybe a little more than that. Then you'll have a lot of individual assignments as well. And just to help you understand, ISB is very particular about the honor code, which is basically you cannot cheat. So I have actually, towards the end of my course, given up on assignments, got a 0 on them, because I did not want to cheat, and I did not have a lot of time because I had some personal commitments. So I think it's very important to understand that ISB is very particular about the quality of people and the ethics that they will uphold.
Right.
Okay, coming back to the day, so it's around evening, and then probably you'll go out and go to the gym, or play some sports to refresh yourself, and then come back again, and then there'll be another case or another group work or another individual assignment that you'll have to take care of. And then probably towards the night, you'll go to the library, sit and do some self-study for another 3 or 4 hours, prepare for the next day, do your pre-reads, etc. And maybe say the library is open till what, 2 o'clock? 2 o'clock.
And 4 a.m. till in your exam.
And 4 a.m. In your exam day. So, and you will see a lot of people in the library, or the LRC at its called, that's at ISB, being there and just logging it till 2 o'clock in the morning. So I think that's how a typical day is. You start at 8, you end at 2. Maybe there are a lot of people who will not stop at 2 as well. They'll go back to your studios or quads and study for another couple of hours as well. So it totally depends on how much you want to put in and what do you want to get of ISB. And in between you'll also have some sporting events or some salsa classes or some sessions on financial modeling, etc. It totally depends on what time of the year it is and how much you want to get out of the 1 year at ISB.
Right. So we'll take a question from the comment section. I haven't heard much about Strategy4GMAT. Can you please let me know more about the company? Okay. So let me start on how and when we thought about starting this up. So as I said, class 13 when I started to apply, I went for a consultant. And they were not from ISB or anything, although a very reputed name in admissions consulting. But what I felt was that they were able to provide good structure to my essays and tick the boxes in terms of what I should have, should not have. But the whole ISB experience piece was missing, which could catapult my application to a different level, which shows that I have done enough research about ISB and I've taken the pain to talk to alums and things like that. And I had a few alums that I was in touch with, so complemented both the things, and then of course thankfully got into ISB. And since then I've been helping out a few friends of mine to get into ISB again, the whole application process. But I did realize that a lot of good people miss out on the chance to get into ISB or any other school because their applications are not structured well or certain aspects are missing. They might have stellar profiles. So just to give you an example, one person was a national level swimmer, top 10 in college in terms of academics, very stellar work experience, but she did not even get an interview call because again essays were not structured well. She had just thrown out achievements on that and not how can ISB help, how can ISB be helped with their experience. So those sort of things led me to believe that it's good time to start up. And when Abhishek started out in 2016 at ISB, we sort of got together, first identified the Gmat strategy piece as a missing gap in the market, which Abhishek identified during his Gmat process. So it's just not about studying; it's about the test taking skills and how to structure your test and how you should answer each question, strategies on those. So we thought of why not extend this to the ISB admission process, so that gives you an end-to-end service.
Correct.
So formally, yes, started up last year, but yeah, we've been helping, and our consultants have been helping people get into ISB throughout the last 4 years or so. Yeah, I think so. That's the story, and here we are talking in front of you.
So I'd just like to add. So Manan and I go back to school. We've been friends since school, and Manan also helped me through my admissions journey at ISB, and that's what he said, that he had been helping friends throughout the last 4 years or so to basically get into ISB and bring in that perspective from that only an alum can bring, because you've lived that life for the 1 year at ISB, and you know ISB in and out. So I think his inputs were really important. And when I went to the interview as well, I knew that I know a lot about ISB, about the faculty, about the day at ISB, about the courses, about electives, and so many other things, because of the fact that I was already in touch with an ISB alum. So I think that really added a lot of value. And yes, when I started out in 2015 and I had taken the GMAT in 2014, those years were really important because I understood that there was a gap in what people were offering in the market. So you have big names offering a lot of courses and a lot of material, etc., but there was nobody talking about how to take the test. And I think that was very important to understand, especially when and there are a lot of people who do well in the mocks, get above 720, 740, but when it comes to the actual GMAT, they only end up getting a 650, 660 kind of a score. And the essence of that is the fact that you do not really have a lot of importance on strategy out there, by a lot of consultants or a lot of test prep companies, and that's how we started. Taking another question, it's about Hyderabad versus Mohali. So that's been around for about 5 years now, and we'll take that. And each of us come from different campuses, so we have one from Hyderabad and one from Mohali here, so we can give you an honest opinion on how it works. So I think ISB is very particular about the one school, two campus philosophy, and whether it is admissions or faculty or placements, it is always the endeavor of the school to give you a very coherent and a very similar experience across both the campuses. What that means is that there'll be a lot of so firstly, the way it's allocated is through a process wherein it's an algorithm that works. So you will apply and you can give your preferences, but it is not necessary that if you prefer Hyderabad, you'll get Hyderabad, or if you prefer Mohali, you'll get Mohali. It is not like that. ISB wants that both the classes, at both the campuses should be very similar in age profile, in work experience, in diversity, in terms of male, female, engineer, non-engineer, etc. So you might opt for or prefer Hyderabad, and you might end up getting Mohali and vice versa. So you have no control over it. That's one. Secondly, I think in terms of faculty, it is pretty even. So there are faculty members who would go to both campuses, maybe take half a course here at Mohali and then go to Hyderabad or vice versa, or maybe have the same course in consecutive terms. So maybe what Manan would have read in term 6, I would have read in term 7, because the same faculty comes from the US, goes to Hyderabad first and then goes to Mohali. Talking about placement, so it's a unified placements process as well. It happens at one campus, so the entire other campus would be flown down to the other campus. So if the placements are happening at Mohali, as they happened this time around, the entire Hyderabad campus flew down from Hyderabad to Mohali. They were put up in hotels, and all the scheduling and the logistics were managed by the ISB staff. And when the recruiter comes to speak with you, he does not really care. If he likes you, he will not really care about Mohali or Hyderabad or which campus you come from. If he likes you, he'll hire you. So it's as simple as that. In terms of experience, I think, yes, Hyderabad is a much bigger campus physically. There are both positives and negatives to that. So the positive would be over here, more space, you have maybe better facilities in some regard, bigger swimming pools, whatever. The drawback, which I think is a very big drawback, is the fact that you would not really know everybody even by the time of graduation. And there are a lot of stories about Hyderabad that even if you meet somebody on graduation, you're not sure whether he was in your class or not. Whereas at Mohali, it's a much smaller class, around 280 people these days. So everybody would know everyone else by the end of term 2. And even the dean, when he'll speak to you in the orientation week, he'll mention that Hyderabad is pretty competitive versus Mohali, which is very collaborative. So I think that really is something that you take away from your college. So it's not only about academics or placements or faculty, it's also about friends. 5 years down the line, you're not really going to care about whether you had that faculty, etc., but you are going to talk about the friends that you made during that 1 year. So,
yeah.
If you want.
Yeah, I think just to summarize, it is the school tries to have similar experience for both the campuses. In case there are sessions happening at Mohali and they are available via VC to Hyderabad folks and vice versa. So it's not as if a star profile or a star guest is coming to one campus, the other campus will not be able to take fruits from whatever he or she says. And in terms of placements, as Abhishek mentioned, it's all unified. You're not allowed to write campus name on the CV. In fact, not even give a hint on that. So, for instance, if you're so the annual fest at alumni event at Hyderabad is called Solstice, and at Mohali is called Equinox. You're not even allowed to mention the name, so that it gives a hint that which campus you were from. So ISB is very strict in that regard. So again, tries to have similar experience for both the campuses. For me. In my class, it was the first time that Mohali campus was open. Apart from the teething issues that the Mohali folks faced in the first couple of months, things were absolutely similar and with respect to academics, with respect to placements, with respect to facilities as well. By the way, swimming pool at Mohali is bigger than Hyderabad. I was just there. Yeah. So it's the same. So it's, as we strictly believe in the one school two campus policy, and it's up to the students to take it forward and experience that and make sure that it is enriching for everybody else. Another question that we had received over email was, how is the faculty interaction with the students, especially the international ones? Of course, so ISB has a lot of visiting faculty, in-house research faculty, so everybody is great in terms of the way they teach and the classroom experience that we get. I would not go into that. It's more about the bond that we share with the professors. At the end of every term, there will be a farewell cake cutting, at least, if not a party for the outgoing professor. Yeah. The international ones are usually you can see them in most of our parties and dancing and enjoying with the students. So it's a good experience because they come in with the perspectives from different schools as well. So you're able to interact with them and they can guide you in terms of how a Kellogg works or how a Duke works versus an ISB. So that experience is quite good.
And just to add to that, there are a lot of courses that would be delivered through telepresence, which is basically a video conferencing kind of a facility that will happen from one campus to the other. So you can attend the same class happening at the other campus through the video conference facility. So it's the same professor who's taking the class live at one location and through telepresence on the other, and it's really smooth. And I've taken those classes. It's really very, very close to the physical class that you would take, and you just believe that the professor is right there in front of you and speaking real time. Yeah. So I think that's really important. And apart from that, I think the faculty it's really stellar, one of the best, if not the best, for Indian schools, because ISB has a lot of partner schools in the form of Wharton, Kellogg, etc., and a lot of people come from those schools. So we have a faculty member who actually he actually started or invented the ABC cost accounting method. So I think that is something that is really proud. You should be proud of the fact that he is the guy who's teaching you management accounting. So that is really, really important. The kind of exposure and the profiles that you see in terms of the faculty members, that's really, really amazing. I think the next question, or in fact we missed one, was the core strength of ISB in terms of the sector. So I think we are talking about two things. So one is the core strength in terms of faculty and the course, and the core strength in terms of placements, I believe. So I think the core strength in terms of placements would be consulting. McKinsey's, BCG's, etc. of the world hire the most from ISB as compared to any other B school in India, whether it is Ahmedabad, Bangalore, etc. And they clearly and openly talk about it in their PPTs, etc. when they come down to campus. That's only because the experience that they've had with ISB recruitments in the past have been amazing. Talking about other sectors, I think because of startups, there are a lot of project management roles, a lot of leadership roles that come to campus, and that really gives you a good blend or a good variety of options that you can explore post ISB. Talking about the electives or the course, I think the core strength, I'm not really sure if there is any one core strength. It totally depends on what you want to do. So there'll be core courses in the first 3 to 4 terms, wherein you will have some mandatory courses. That's the case with any MBA. So you'll have courses in economics, finance, accounting, marketing, strategy, etc. And then you have to choose your elective. So the good part about the ISB MBA is that you can choose any electives, and it is not really necessary to specialize only in finance or strategy, etc. For example, I specialize in finance and strategy both, but I also had courses in marketing, in IT, in healthcare, etc. So that gives you a very good flavor of the overall, industry, and the thought behind the new concepts that are emerging in the economy.
On that note, we'll skip one question and take another one. Is more about the exchange programs and experience through these, how competitive the bidding process goes in getting the exchange programs. So exchange programs do really help again in terms of the wider exposure to different schools, different countries, etc. You should know why you are first of all, going for an exchange program. Is it just to experience a Wharton or a Kellogg, or is it specific to the sector or the industry that you're targeting? Because certain schools are in particular heavy on certain sectors, or if it's a particular region that you want to apply for. So if you want to go to NUS because you want to work in Singapore, so that 1.5 months you can start applying for jobs there. So it could be anything. But you have to bear in mind a few factors with respect to ISB. The exchange programs happen usually starting from term 7 onwards. If the placements, if you have not been placed, then a lot of companies are still okay with doing Skype interviews, but of course it's not as good as or as close to an experience as the real one that you would have on the specific days when the companies come on campus. Second aspect is more in terms of whether you want to attend graduation at ISB. A lot of people choose not to and then are on exchange programs. Third is more from an experience perspective, because most of the activities and the most of the bond that you develop with your classmates and your friend is during the fag end of the course, because most of you are placed, you're already into the group of assignments, etc. So all of that is on autopilot mode, and you have a lot of parties where you can interact with people and a lot of events that happen. So though that experience you might miss out on. So it's about, again, as I said, why and you want to go for an exchange program.
Correct.
And the bidding process, yes, it's competitive for a lot of the known names in the MBA world. So Wharton or Kellogg will offer you a couple of seats, and the bidding process goes for a toss. Bear in mind that the bidding points that you get for choosing electives and choosing exchange programs are the same. So that out of the same pool, you need to pick and choose whether you want to save points for electives or put all your eggs or money in to get into a Wharton program. So it's entirely up to you in terms of how you want to go through that. And yes, bidding for subjects is very competitive.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
It's fun, but you still get to.
And there's a lot of strategy involved as well. So a lot of the strategy that you would be taught in class is actually put to use while bidding for your electives, and it's really competitive out there. Okay, another question which we had over email was the clubs. So basically, the question is, how do these help in improving any skills? What are the sort of activities done via the clubs? And what all clubs are there actively in ISB? And are there any specific clubs for supply chain management or operations? So I think there are around 20 odd clubs which are professional clubs at ISB, because every year or a couple of years there are new ones added. So in my class there was a public policy club added as well. And apart from that, there are around 8 social clubs, including golf, photography, radio, etc. So I think clubs are very important. They really help you a lot in the overall ISB experience. What they do is they have various buckets in terms of the activities that they'll organize. So one bucket would be L&D. So L&D would basically help you prepare for your jobs. So a lot of times you will have resume reviews organized by your club, or alumni networking sessions organized by your club, and there'll be peer-to-peer interviews as well, and L&D sessions. That okay, if you want to apply for a role in e-commerce, there will be somebody in e-commerce who has worked with, say, a Flipkart or an Amazon for 3 years, and he'll share his experience with you to give you more insight and take very informed decisions about the roles that you want to apply for. Then there are a lot of workshops, etc., that are organized. So alums come down, or other professionals come down to campus to take courses or workshops on marketing, on financial modeling, on logistics, supply chain, etc. There are also a lot of activities in terms of the event. So, for example, the Finance Club organizes a financial conclave called Artha, which is basically a conference in Mumbai, and people from both Mohali and Hyderabad have flown down to Mumbai, and there are a lot of big names from the financial world. For example, the CEOs of bigger private equity companies and big foreign banks who come down and speak at those events. And obviously, you'll have your networking sessions post the event as well. Talking about any specific clubs for SEM or Ops? So there is a manufacturing and operations club that has been in existence for quite a number of years now, and they really help you, say, by organizing a lot of certifications or a lot of workshops, etc. And I think that answers your question as well.
Yeah. Okay. We missed one question in the middle. Do you only help for ISB or other B schools as well?
Right. Yeah, so I think the admissions process for any top B school is very, very similar. Manan here had offers from NUS and NTU as well, but he chose ISB because he wanted to stay back in India. I had applied only to Indian schools because I wanted to stay in India, and I had offers from Ahmedabad 1-year program as well. Manas, who's another consultant with us, he had offers from NYU and another couple of US colleges as well. But again, because of personal reasons, he stayed back in India. So yes, we do offer consulting for other B schools as well. The focus or the core strength is definitely ISB, because we, all of us come from ISB and we've been there, done that, and the kind of inputs we can provide, I'm sure only an alum can. However, we, definitely are informed about others and the way it works out there, and what is the difference between Indian and USB schools as well, and we can help in those admissions processes as well. You wanted to add something?
Yeah, I think, and then we are in talks with a few consultants, or onboarding a few consultants from different schools, because again, to our point, that if you are an alum, you'll be able to help better on that. The question that is received by, so are people getting offers in strategy consulting or for digital transformation or product management for data products? It is very specific. It is a very specific question, I would say, Amit. There are strategy consulting roles in the digital world that come to ISB, but they will not hire you telling you that, yeah, it is only for transformation. Yes, you might get projects for transformation later on, depending upon whichever company you go for and the kind of projects that they have. So the job roles are for certain areas are quite specific, but the wider tenet of product management or strategy consulting within a particular sector is what you should aim for. And when you get there, it's easier to then move around in large companies and get the projects of your choice within the same domain.
Another question is by Kailash. What are the things one needs to do while at ISB to land a product or program manager role at high-tech firms such as Google, Microsoft, Facebook, Amazon, etc.? So I think all these names are pretty regular recruiters at ISB. In my opinion, I think that there are two things that really matter to a recruiter. One is your previous work experience. And trust me, once you are at ISB, you can't do anything about it, right? The next thing that you can do about is your GPA. So a lot of people, and it's still the typical Indian mentality that if a guy scores well or scores high, he is smarter than the other guy who does not score as high. So I think because, and a lot of these recruiters would be from typical Indian B schools, like the IIMs, they still have that notion. While ISB is a very Western-based education system, and they are not really too keen on high scores, etc. And that is why the range of Gmat scores for the incoming class would range from 600 to 760, 780. I think it's really important to score well and prove that you are smart via your academic scores as well. So I think those are two really important things, and you can enhance your profile by taking up courses or doing some thought leadership and sending it to the right alums who are working in such companies. But I think broadly it is about your work experience as well as your academics.
So the question also touches upon what they need to do. So if you're already in that role again or closer to that role, you should of course try and target projects so that you gain an understanding of the domain that you're wanting to get into. And bear in mind, the placement process starts sometime in November and your course starts in April. So you barely have 7 months to start off on something that you have not done before, or if you've done it before, to enhance upon it. So it is important to demonstrate the intent first of all, apart from of course good grades never hurt anybody, but it's important to show an intent that if you're not from the product management background prior to your ISB experience, what have you done at ISB in the first 7 months? So whether it's an ad hoc project you did with an alum or a professor which reflects your interest, were you part of the business and technology club and organized events with respect to that, so that you have certain understanding of that course. Again, online courses will help, which are complementing to your already existing work experience.
Right. Okay. Another question by Ashish: is there any scope of an internship with a firm, given the tightly wrapped up nature of the program? So I think that's a very good question. ISB is a 1-year program and it's really tight and rigorous. Just to give you a sense, so the assistant dean from Wharton comes down to take a course at ISB, and he once mentioned that the number of hours of teaching at ISB in 1 year are 640. Whereas the number of hours of teaching at a good school like a Harvard or a Wharton is 700 over 2 years. So I think that is the rigor of a 1-year MBA, especially at a top school at ISB. Now, talking about your question about internships, generally people do not do an internship. While there are case competitions organized by big firms, and they would give you a PPO or a pre-placement offer via your, based on your performance in that competition. However, if you're very keen or very specific in your choice and you want to do an internship so as to get into a particular industry, a lot of people intern say from April to July after they have graduated. And these are typically internships with investment banks or private equity funds, etc., just to give them a sense of how smart you are and what you bring to the table, and that actually paves the way for you to get into those firms as well.
Right.
But in the general course, I think 90% of the people or 80% of the people do not really take up an internship purely because it is very rigorous out there.
Right, and you of course have the experiential learning program where you actually work on a live project that the firm has given to you. So treat it like an internship for a couple of months, because that's the length of the project that you need to accomplish with specified goals and KRAs that are defined right at the start, and those are graded by your professors. I think we'll just take one last question before we start calling you guys for profile evaluation. How are the placement process split between candidates with length of experience prior to ISB? So there is no strict split as such with respect to the placement process as a whole. There are placement days, day 0, day 1, etc., that happen, and all sorts of jobs come in, and those jobs have defined number of experiences, years of experience that they are looking for. So you could have a McKinsey which takes up to say 6 to 7 years of experience, or you could have an Amazon with a senior management role which has 10 plus years of experience as the limit. Having said that, there is a senior executive club at ISB which the eligibility for that is 8 plus years of experience. So they have their own team. They look out for such senior management jobs that can come to ISB, and people can apply there. So long story short, there is no separate process depending upon the years of experience. It's all bundled into one day, and different jobs come for different experiences.
So one more question specific for Manan. So
yeah, so the fees were significantly different for ISB and NUS. That could have been one of the factors based on which Manan rejected NUS, but also his fees were more. So for me, fees was not a factor of differential. It was more about where I wanted to be in the long run. And bear in mind, these schools are competent enough for you to get good jobs where you will be able to pay your education loans. Of course, if I would have gone to US, I would have had to stay there, or a different country outside India with a better exchange rate. But even if the fees are same right now, it is about where you wanted to go in the long run. NUS right now will be buzzing with the whole growth that Singapore is having in terms of digital and other emerging sectors. So if you're interested in that and working in Singapore, Hong Kong, or Australia for that matter, an NUS route might be an easier one than an ISB one, of course, which has placements internationally as well. If you want to stick around in India, work for global firms and travel, and then go out, it's up to you. But in terms of experience and time, more importantly, ISB is a 1-year course. NUS is close to 17 months, so your time to market is different. So depending upon your goals on where you want to start and when you want to start, that's how you should sort of base your decision on India versus Singapore, for instance. So I think that's a wrap. Thank you so much for sending your questions. I hope we have been able to answer them to your satisfaction. We'll anyways send this YouTube link on your email so that you can go through that later. We'll start calling you one-on-one now, and depending upon the slot provided to you already, we will reach out to you and have the profile evaluation session and discuss any of the queries that you might have. So
thank you so much, guys. Look forward to speaking to you in the one-on-one sessions.
Thank you.